used my husband's credit card for my secret love life. Now he's posting the receipts. Hello, Reddits. My name is Lucy, and I've been married for almost 5 years now, but right now my marriage is breaking apart faster than I can say Jack. I did something really terrible, but I really didn't think it was that bad until Jack found out about it, and now he's just so angry and is purposely doing everything he can to ruin me. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. He was definitely not ever supposed to find out, but I was desperate at that point. I had no choice, and I tried to explain things to Jack, but he wouldn't even listen to me at all or hear me out. I'm clueless at this point, and I really don't know what to do, to be honest. That's why I'm here. Jack and I met almost 8 years ago. I was dating a friend of his at that point, a friend who kept cheating on me on countless occasions, but I loved him. I loved him so much, and I didn't want to lose him, so I kept sticking to him for a whole year before things finally ended. Well, luckily, I was the one who ended things because I fell in love with another person, Jack. Back when I dated that friend of his, I kept going to Jack most times to complain about his friend to him, and other times to plead with Jack to plead with his friend on my behalf, to stop being angry at me on days when he would angrily leave the house and wouldn't come back just because I accused him of sleeping around. But every time I went to see Jack, instead of trying to pacify me and call his friend on my behalf, he took me out on a shopping spree to distract my mind, and sometimes we went together to restaurants, very expensive ones, so I could eat properly, in Jack's words. He never assured me, not even once, that he would speak to his friend. He would just often keep quiet, let me rant, and then he would take me out. I guess he didn't want to persuade his friend to stick to one woman because he believed that if he truly loved me, he would not need telling. Jack told me this when we got married, and I asked him if he ever spoke to his friend for me. Slowly, I started to like Jack even more than I did his friend. The way he took care of me and the way he easily spent money on me. I started to seek him out just to hang out with him, with the excuse of his friend again, even when he had done nothing wrong to me. I just needed to see Jack and let him spoil me silly to get my mind off things. I broke up with his friend for about 2 months before I ever told Jack about it. I kept visiting under the pretense that I needed someone to talk to. I think Jack noticed that, and he started to get too busy to entertain me. Desperate to get his attention, I begged to see him one last time, and I finally told him the truth. I told him that I ended things with his friend, and I confessed my feelings too to him. Jack said nothing at first, but he continued to accept my request to meet up every time. A month after that, we started dating. Well, it was more like we started having sex, but Jack allowed me to define the relationship the way I wanted to. He had no issues with me introducing him as my boyfriend to everyone. We dated for almost 2 years before we finally got married. I didn't receive that romantic proposal that everyone always keeps talking about. I suggested marriage a few times to Jack, and the first few times, he said nothing to my suggestions, and then finally he agreed that we should get married. We got married some months later because of Jack's business. He had some minor issues that needed his whole attention. After we got married, Jack was still the same man I was in love with. He didn't change or anything. He didn't stop giving me money, even though I worked too. He didn't stop taking me out when I asked, and he didn't stop buying me gifts when I asked. At first, during our relationship and the first 2 years of marriage, I thought it was nice that Jack got me everything I wanted when I asked for it. But eventually, it became really annoying. I wanted that classic surprise that everybody else got from their own husbands. He didn't ever surprise me. He was just always buying me things because I asked for them, and not because he thought of me and decided to buy something for me. Even on my birthday, Jack asked what I wanted instead of buying me a thoughtful gift, and I had angrily requested for a car. He bought me the car, but I still wasn't happy with him. It became really frustrating that I had to ask before I got gifts from him. Whenever I tried to get him something to surprise him, he never was really surprised. He would thank me for the gift and would proceed to use it, but the fact that he never got surprised was just displeasing. And that continued into our 3rd and 4th year of marriage until I just got really exhausted by it. And it was then Billy came into my life. Billy is a coworker at work, a guy that I never really noticed before until we had to work together. Billy must have liked me way before we were asked to work together because immediately he got that opportunity to work with me, he started to flirt with me. At first, I dismissed his show of affection towards me, but then Billy had managed to win my heart by doing the one thing I kept craving for from my husband. He got me a gift. It wasn't anything special, just a plastic bouquet of flowers, and he bought me a card too. It was written in that card that I was a special person and deserves the best. I was so happy, and Billy was pleased. After he found out how much I liked surprises, he started giving me something nearly every day. Sometimes it was a treat to lunch, sometimes dinner when we finished late from work. Then it was a pair of earrings, then a wristwatch, and then bangles. It was nice to get surprises every day at work, so I began to look forward to more than work each time. I became excited to see what Billy had for me the next day, and he never disappointed me. Even after we stopped working on the project together, Billy continued coming to my office so we could sometimes eat lunch together, or so he could drop off some gifts. I knew that everyone in the office suspected our relationship because of how close we suddenly seemed, but I didn't care. There was nothing between Billy and I at first, and I was married, so I believed there was nothing they could catch us with. But things did change along the lines, and something entirely different started between Billy and I. It was never meant to happen, but it did. My relationship with Billy didn't only stop at the office. We spoke on text more often than was necessary between friends. We talked about anything and everything. He told me about his ex-girlfriend who abandoned him because she felt he loved sex too much. I told him about Jack and his inability to surprise me and the way it made me feel. I went as far as confiding in him about our sex life. Jack didn't like sex as much as I did. He was either too tired from work stress or he wasn't just in the mood and would concentrate on working instead, even at home. We did have sex, but not as often as I would like it, and I have to initiate it too. Jack hardly initiated sex, so it was when I got desperate for sexual satisfaction and reached out to him before he touched me. He did love hugging and kissing me all the time, but he didn't really place as much importance on sex like I did, and when Billy told me that his girlfriend left him because he liked sex too much, I felt envious. I started to wish that Billy was my husband instead of Jack, especially because of sex, but I dismissed the thought when it came to my mind. I do love Jack, and despite the whole sex and surprise thing, he still had lots of admirable attributes. But then one day, Billy invited me over to his place for lunch. I wasn't supposed to say yes, but Jack wasn't home, and it was a weekend. I was all alone at home bored, and I texted Billy hoping to chat with him, and then he had extended the invite. I eventually agreed after a little persuasion, and he sent me his address. I went to Billy's place, and we definitely didn't eat any lunch. We had rather turned the cooking tools into sex tools at the end. When I got there, Billy told me that he didn't know what I liked, and he wanted us to cook together, and I agreed. But cooking somehow turned into something different entirely, because Billy and I somehow ended up with lots of ingredients on our clothes, and Billy helped me out of my dress to get rid of the dirt on it, and we ended up on his bed helping each other taking out those dirts. I left Billy's place feeling quite good. I won't lie. Billy did know his way around a woman's body, and I didn't need to tell him exactly how to please me. He just knew, and everything he did to me that day made it even more intriguing. That first day was the beginning of our full-blown affair. We met almost every weekend to have sex, and when that wasn't enough, we would sneak out for lunch to his place, which was only about 30 minutes drive from work, and we would have a quickie before heading back to work. It became an almost everyday thing. We couldn't stop having sex. I couldn't stop wanting Billy, and the feeling just got more and more intense every time we got to meet. Sneaking around seemed to make everything even more erotic. We even snuck out into the bathroom just to have sex at work, and eventually we became so bold that I started inviting Billy over to the house whenever Jack wasn't home. But perhaps because of the way we had sex everywhere and almost anywhere we got the opportunity, Billy couldn't use protection all the time, and I kept missing on my pills, so I discovered that I was pregnant. I was so scared, because I knew it was definitely for Billy, and I knew that Jack was smart enough to calculate how long it had been since we really had sex, and it was definitely not the day I got pregnant. But while panicking and trying to figure out what to do, I forgot to dispose of the pregnancy test kit that I bought, and Jack had found it. He was very happy when he realized that I was pregnant, and he even made an appointment almost instantly with his doctor. I panicked and faked a sickness and told him I would just lie in bed and go the next day. Luckily, he had to go on a trip the next day, so I quickly texted Billy about the situation, and he somehow had been able to secure a spot for me at a clinic a bit farther from our place, so I could get rid of it. I should have realized that he probably took women there because of how the doctor kept talking to him like they were friends. But I didn't pay any attention to that. I just wanted the baby out fast before I had to go with Jack to the hospital. Jack ended up spending a week because of work emergencies outside the town. It was perfect, and enough time for me to recover from the quite painful procedure and also fake some sort of accident. I told Jack that I lost the baby when I fell down the stairs. Jack took me to the hospital to confirm it. They confirmed that there might have been a baby in me before, but it wasn't there anymore. Jack was really nice to me, and he stayed with me throughout that week. He made some calls, and I was given the week off, and he stayed with me the whole time, probably because he thought I would be depressed from losing the baby. Jack even bought me anything I asked at that moment, and even the things I didn't even ask for. I was surprised that Jack was buying me the things he thought I needed, without even asking. I loved it so much, and it made me wickedly think of losing another baby. I know what you must think of me now. You must think of me as a cruel, cheating, and lying witch. But at that point, I didn't care for anything else except getting more of the special treatment I was getting from Jack. I didn't even think of Billy throughout that week. Although he kept texting, I just blocked his number so that Jack didn't see all the text he was sending while he stayed with me the whole time. When I eventually resumed back to work, Billy was eager to see me and ask me how everything went. Honestly, my intention when I got back to work had been to cut Billy off. Tell him that we couldn't do what we've been doing anymore and that I was in a better place with Jack. But seeing him looking so worried, I pushed back what I was going to say and assured him that I was fine. He accused me of blocking him off, and I told him the reason why. He wanted us to have sex right there in the office, telling me that he had missed me all week, and normally I would agree to it, but I just couldn't at that moment, so I lied that I was still having pains from the procedure. For about 2 weeks after that, I kept giving more excuses to avoid sleeping with Billy, because everything was fine between Jack and I. He brought home gifts randomly, and our sex life just seemed to get better each day. But then again, Jack started to upset me. He decided to go on a weekend trip and would be back the next Monday for a job he could easily delegate to his assistant to do for him. I begged him not to go, and when he insisted on going, I stopped begging him because I didn't want to come across as needy. But it made me really upset, and I just went over to Billy's house knowing he would be home. Billy was surprised to see me, but he asked no questions and allowed me in. He kissed me back when I kissed him and helped me out of my clothes and out of his too. Even after the whole thing, he asked no questions. I slept over at his place that night for the first time since we started having sex. That was how I resumed the affair. I paused because I thought things were good between Jack and I. Billy and I continued sleeping together again, and this time even more than the last time. But then, a month after we started sleeping together again, Billy had some issues and begged me to help him sort it out. He had apparently spent his house rent on something else and was behind on rent for 3 months and needed to pay or else risked getting evicted. Although he wouldn't even tell me what he spent the money on, he just kept asking for my help, and I knew I couldn't refuse him. I didn't have that sort of money on me, and I knew asking for that sort of money from Jack would make him suspect me and ask questions. I had no choice but to steal my husband's credit card and use it to pay for Billy's house rent. I had hidden Jack's personal phone and taken it along with me so I could delete the receipt when I got the money I needed from his account. I thought that since Jack was wealthy, he wouldn't even notice such a small amount gone from his account. I gave Billy the money, but when he saw the amount of money in Jack's account, he got greedy and begged me to give him some more. I still couldn't say no, especially when he convinced me to withdraw some more money so we could go on a little trip the next weekend when Jack was away instead of staying indoors all day. I foolishly thought of it as a good idea, and I withdrew some more money and gave it to Billy. I didn't want to hold on to the money just in case Jack found it on me. Before going home that day, I deleted all the evidence of the money withdrawn. Jack asked me if I saw his phone immediately. I stepped in and I lied that I took his phone instead of mine when I was going to work. Jack said nothing and just collected his phone back. I was going to put his credit card back in its place, but Jack apparently had about 3, and the card belonged to an account he rarely used, so it was mostly inside the house instead of with him as the other 2 were. So I greedily kept the card with me since he didn't even know it was missing. Jack traveled as intended that weekend, and Billy and I went on a small trip to another state, and I thought it was just amazing. Jack had always wanted to take me on his trips, but I always avoided going because I was scared of flying, and I always ended up making excuses of work, until Jack stopped asking, completely knowing I would reject the offer. But going on that trip with Billy felt different. Although instead of lying low, he kept going everywhere and spending the money I gave him excessively, and he exhausted everything within a day. He rented the hotel we stayed for only a day, and we couldn't even stay the next day if we didn't pay for it. I had no choice but to use Jack's credit card because we were practically stranded. I knew I had to come up with something to tell Jack because I knew he would see the receipts of the hotel bills and the other things I had to pay for. I expected Jack to call me and ask for some sort of explanation, but he didn't. I was scared to call him myself because I didn't know what to expect or what lie to tell. Out of anxiety, I told Billy that we had to leave that evening, and Billy reluctantly agreed. We left without even using up the money we paid for the night. When I arrived home, Jack wasn't home. He wasn't meant to come home at all then, but I just couldn't stop the feeling of unease rising within me. So I called him. I wanted to lie to him that I went on an impromptu trip for work, and the company didn't provide our accommodation, so I had to use his card without informing him first. But Jack wouldn't pick his calls. I called his assistant to ask if he was in a meeting, but he said that his boss was free for the evening. I kept trying to reach Jake, but he wouldn't pick up and refused to call back. I sent him a text explaining what I had planned to lie about and went to bed, hoping that by morning Jack would have seen the text and responded. But that wasn't what happened. Jack did see the text, but he just didn't respond to it. I was at work that Monday when the havoc started. I got a notification from the group chat. It was the group that was created by a mutual friend for all of us to connect, and I was only added there after I married Jack. I ignored the notification at first and focused on work, but my phone continued buzzing from notification from the same group, and I couldn't focus on work, so I decided to check it out. It turned out that Jack had made a post on the group. He had posted screenshots of the receipts to the hotel Billy and I were at the day before. Everyone was confused as to why Jack was posting screenshots of receipts when he sent a recording to the group. Jack had apparently called the hotel when he saw the receipts to inquire about who was spending such an amount of money, and it had been confirmed by the manager of the hotel that it was me who used the card, and that I came with a man whose name was also mentioned in the recording. I was shocked when I heard the recording, and then scared. Jack had apparently not stopped there too, because before the end of the day, I was fired from work without any chance to explain myself. I was even threatened by a lawsuit for breach of contract. The company apparently had a rule of no sexual involvement with a coworker, and I breached that rule. Jack had sent those receipts and the recording to a colleague who had always envied me, and he had paid her to post them on our company platform, which she had done. Billy was also fired, even though he tried to deny the charge and lie that it was some sort of setup. He lied that he never had anything to do with me outside work, and he had not been the one with me on that trip. When we stepped out of the office of our boss, each holding the letter we were given, Billy didn't even bother looking at me. He just raced out of the office in anger, not even caring or bothering about how it was going to affect me. I got home and hoped I would meet Jack at home. He still wasn't there. He wouldn't pick my calls or return my texts either. Jack had also sent that damning evidence to my parents too. My parents were so angry that they didn't even let me finish speaking before they ended the call and refused to pick up after that. The people I called friends were in the group shaming and insulting me for cheating. None of them wanted to hear my side of the story. Eventually, I got removed from the group, and it felt like a knife through my social life. Jack got divorce papers emailed to me instead of showing up himself. I kept trying to reach him, and I still am trying. It's been 3 awful weeks and still nothing from him. I am just in constant pain, and I don't know what to do anymore. I'm so clueless, it hurts. It hurts not knowing what to do, especially when your world is crashing down so fast, it's shocking. Update. Hello, Reddits. It's been 2 months since I posted here on this app. To be honest, I don't know what I was trying to achieve coming here to write down my sob story, as most of you called it. Maybe I expected some sort of help. Maybe I hoped that by coming here to write everything down, I would get some peace. Or maybe Jack would forgive me because someone would perhaps realize just how terrible I feel about the whole thing and give me some advice on what to do next. As it stands, I'm still clueless, but without any hope again. My hope had not only been dashed, but also crushed to nothing. It hurts that Jack wants nothing to do with me anymore. He hasn't come home for over 2 months, and it's so painful staying alone in this big house all by myself, with nobody coming to seek me except for Jack's lawyer, who comes by every day for the divorce papers and to threaten me with a lawsuit if I don't sign the papers. But I couldn't, and I still can't. I know that everything is my fault, and that I'm supposed to let Jack go because I did that anyway when I decided to cheat on him with someone like Billy. I know that Jack will never forgive me or accept me back. I know that with everything that has happened, he will always hate me for the awful thing I did. But I still cannot bring myself to sign those papers. I know that cheating severs relationships, but it feels like a divorce just ends everything. Every single thing. Being alone in this house feels like a definite means of torture. With our wedding pictures hanging on the wall and seeing my rings that I haven't been able to bring myself to wear for the last 1 month because of how ashamed of myself I feel. Seeing every room that has something of Jack there, especially our bedroom, which has so many memories. Every furniture, every painting, every utensil or equipment reminds me of everything I had on a platter of gold, but lost because of my foolishness. Waking up every day to an empty other side of the bed fills my heart with this massive throbbing pain that ceases to go away. Everything just fills me up with emotions that I have no name for. I never thought it possible to feel anger, pain, defeat, sadness, and regrets all at once, and each day a new feeling comes into play. It's just horrible how no one will speak to me. My mother has rejected every means of reconciliation with the family that I've tried. I've texted her, begged her, but she still refuses. My dad is the same. He immediately ends the call once he notices my name flashing on the screen. My siblings are the same. 2 of them, also married with kids, want absolutely nothing to do with me either, and it's absolute torment. My friends cut me off just like that, even on social media. They blocked my number and also my account on social media. Nobody wants to hear me out. Nobody wants to listen to me, not even you guys. It's obvious from your cruel comments and wicked suggestions that even though you've gotten my side of the story, you believe me to be the monster. I know I am. I do know very well what it feels like feeling like an isolated, hated monster, but it doesn't make the pain go away. It doesn't make me feel any better when you guys compare me to really awful things, even though I know I deserve everything. I feel so horrible, and I regret everything that I did with Billy. I thought it was all right. I thought that what Jack didn't know couldn't hurt him. I thought that what I was doing was just having a little bit of fun, just making up for what Jack lacked in our marriage, but now I realize just how awful that decision had been. Billy should never have been the picture. I should never have paid any attention to him. I should have cut him off and maintained a working relationship with him as it always was in the beginning. Now, he's nowhere to be found. He just left without any trace, not bothering to text me or call me to ask how I am, considering I've lost everything, and he only lost his job. I should have known that he wasn't that sort of man to own up to his mistakes, especially when he had lied right in front of me that he had nothing to do with me without even looking me in the eyes. He spoke like we were some stranger that day, like we hadn't been intimate only 2 days before that day. He spoke like he wasn't the one who convinced me to go on that trip and spend my husband's money to fund our affair. He was a coward, and he had always shown it. Never hid it from me, but I was too blinded by my own selfishness and greed to see it. Only a man who is a coward hid in the shadows, willing to have an affair with an obviously married woman, and he showed me that from the beginning. I feel so horrible, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get past this. It hurts so badly to be in a place where nobody wants you, and even though your world is surrounded by silent criticism from afar, your mind and head is full of loud noises caused by your own memories and things you could have done to escape the harshness of the world you live in now. It's just absolutely terrible. Update. Hello, Reddits. It's me again. I know that all of you don't want me here again. It's very obvious from your hurtful words from the previous comments on my second post and even the first one. But then again, I have nowhere to go. Nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody cares enough to want to hear me out, and even if I'm not welcomed here, your harsh comments are a welcome difference from my physical life. It's been an additional 2 weeks since every part of my life came crashing down. Jack has finally gotten rid of me totally, with a lawsuit against me when I wouldn't sign the divorce papers readily. He won the lawsuit, of course, with his obviously expensive lawyer, and with the evidence presented to the court. There was no reason for the judge not to dissolve our marriage. Not even my loud sob and pleas was convincing enough. It was the first time I was seeing Jack in almost 3 months and looking at him staring at me with those cold eyes. Ones that used to stare at me with warmth and love in them now feel so empty as they stare at me. When the court case was over, the lawyer presented me with an eviction notice, meaning I had to leave Jack's house within 3 days. Starting from the beginning is so hard. I had already had to deal with Jack not forgiving me, and that alone is hard enough. I now had to deal with the divorce and also moving out. Even though I thought earlier that being in the house without Jack and all the memories we shared engraved in each part of house was torture, having to leave without those memories was even much worse. I had nowhere to go. My parents still weren't speaking to me. I evidently had no friends anymore, and I had no job. I ended up gathering all of my savings and selling some of my things at very cheap prices so I could gather up enough money to rent a place to stay. Looking for a job has been another hassle. Without Jack's connection, and with a breach of contract report from my last workplace, no one was willing to hire me. But that really was just an excuse to let me go without hiring me. I think that Jack may have had 1 or 2 things to do about me not ever being able to work with big companies ever again. I'm simply tainted. Tainted with my sins of cheating on a man like Jack. I never expected that things would turn out this way. Being reduced to working a part-time job at a library which doesn't pay much is just totally awful. Now having low self-esteem and anxiety every time you step out for fear of being recognized is agony. My life just feels totally and absolutely finished. It feels like nothing. I'm left to suffer the consequences of my actions, and words can really never fully express just how horrible I feel about it all. It's one thing to have never had a life before and wish for it, but it's another thing to have had a life before and knowing that you missed it and it's totally your fault. My brain and heart are in total contradictions of themselves each day now. My brain keeps trying to forget all the horrible things that I have done, while my heart keeps beating each day painfully to remind it of the exact reason why it beats that painfully. Jack has gotten rid of me. He's free from a lying, cheating wife. He would probably celebrate his wins while I'm left with nothing but ruins. Knowing that Jack would probably fall in love again with someone entirely different from me. Someone who wouldn't take his sacrifice of love for granted. Someone who wouldn't think of a reason as stupid as not buying you gifts when you didn't ask is good enough to cheat. Someone who loves him and lives every day of their lives to show him exactly how much he means to them. It makes my head hurt knowing that I could never be that someone. I could never be that person to make him laugh again. I'm gone. I'm gone out of his mind and out of his heart. And if there's any proof of that, it will probably be the way he had looked at me in the courtroom that day, and the way he also exposed me to everyone that I've ever known. I know that I made him hate me that much, and that alone will haunt me for the rest of my life. I'm going to remain stuck here, in this yesterday while everyone moves on, because I will never get a chance to redo anything. Even though I spend every breath of mine wishing that I could somehow turn back the hands of time to that day when I started accepting Billy's silly gifts and allowing him to sweet-talk me until he did sweet-talk me out of my marriage. I would go back in time to that day I had first gone to his place and had sex with him. I would change everything. I will change my greedy and selfish mindset and instead appreciate that Jack was willing to give me anything I asked for. I will go with Jack on every trip he goes on, so I wouldn't be at home alone to the point of entertaining the devil into my home. But life doesn't do do-overs now, does it? I'm going to be stuck like this forever, wishing and regretting every single decision I made with Billy. This is my last post here, guys. I sure hope none of you are planning on ending up like I have, because one free advice, even if you claim you don't need it, is don't. Thanks and goodbye.